Welcome back, folks. That was the EA press conference. Now let's talk about it. Kicked it off, Star Wars Battlefront. Not Hardline, as we thought. In fact, that was quite an ending to Hardline.
Yeah.
We'll get to that soon, because I thought that was awesome. But let's, kick it back.
True to the films as possible, we went back
right through it.
All began.
Star Wars Battlefront. Here we are seeing a look at the sort of creator diary kind of thing that they gave us. And was there like a teaser of footage
There was
towards
a
the end here? Like a speeder bike?
Yeah, toward the end there, we saw the Moon of Endor speeder bike footage, and I can't be the only one who got a little bit of goosebumps going on once they saw like that footage there. That looked
No, it
real
is
good.
very cold in here. You're right.
Oh yeah, it's also very chilly.
I think you see a little bit of Hoth on one of their screens as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like there's quite a few early in engine. Like it's very obvious.
Like this right here.
Yeah. That doesn't look early to me. That looks amazing. But quite a lot of their stuff is sort of like, look, this is early. It's still going to be a long way away, but it still looks really good.
Yeah. So Seymour Spring 2015 is what it said.
Yeah.
Does that mean like we'll have a trailer to show probably fall 2016 is when this game is coming?
Yeah.
I mean, certainly if it's looking like that. Well, who knows? That's exciting, though. There's a little bit of Hoth, as you were mentioning. Kevin, do you think? I think they're going to make good on their, AT-AT takedown that you were watching.
Yeah, I would like them to. I don't know, like I'm having a hard time getting myself pumped about anything except Battlefield at the very end, and even then, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of talking.
There was
a lot of like, hey, we're going to tell you about here's interview with creative people, and we're going to do our little documentary style thing, but we're not just going to talk a lot, not really show you anything.
It was that kind of drama talk with lots of hyperbole and intense
There was
adjectives.
a lot of buzzword going on today.
Never before have you ever this experience had.
For the first time ever in the history of history.
All right, so we had that quick Battlefront thing. Then we got into Dragon Age Inquisition, which that game just looks so beautiful in the stuff that they're showing. It's gorgeous.
It was great to finally see some actual gameplay as well, and not just environmental fly-throughs, which is really all we've seen up to this point.
Yeah.
But this is really reminding me of Dragon's Dogma, actually, just the way that it's like right down there and really active, and everything's sort of going on at once.
They're targeting a specific spot on the dragon here, the front right leg. And yeah, like, lots of these sort of particle effects around the different skills, and they were talking about, they're sort of showing off the range of powers that you've got available in the Dragon Age games. Kevin, what did you make of the Dragon Age showing?
It looks really good, right? But I think the most interesting thing is that they made sure to give a nod, I think, to PC players in particular at the end by mentioning the top-down camera, view, to make sure that people knew that you were still going to get the, pause and consider gameplay that people kind of want.
The tactical
from
side.
Dragon Age.
Because that was in the first game, but it was not in the second game.
Not in the second game.
Yeah.
But now it's on all platforms, that camera, so yeah,
Right.
nice and consistent.
Yeah, so that's good news for folks that like that aspect of BioWare's RPGs.
And for folks that like the environmental fly-throughs, we're getting we had one of those, but now this is like the character reel intro, right?
Yeah.
They're sort of giving an idea of these different people. She's doing that gladiator walk through the wheat thing. And this dialogue was, the voiceover for this section was super cheesy.
It was so
really
cheesy.
bad.
Oh my god.
They had like a few sentences to explain everyone's origin. It was
Yeah.
really hard not to make it sound kind of contrived and stereotypical.
Right, because
and-
like so much has been done, but this
Yeah.
guy, he can take on anything except for the life he left behind.
Oh, that was the worst.
At some point, I mean, what do you even do? Because also, this is set in like a high fantasy setting, and so you can't like get real irreverent with it or anything.
Right.
So that dialogue aside, you were getting a glimpse of these characters, and of course the whole party system and the different characters you get in Dragon Age has always been such a driving force for the character of that story and for the plot and for player investment. You looking forward to playing with any of these characters?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's something that, Dragon Age has always been really good at. Even when it stumbled with Dragon Age 2, is that the relationships between the characters in the game have always been really good, and they felt very real. The problems with Dragon Age 2, I don't think were so much with the characters.
No, it really wasn't. What I want to know is the cellist going to be a playable character?
Oh yeah,
Because
probably.
That's the most important thing.
None of them are Garrus, unfortunately. So
No, they're not.
pre-order for the cellist party member to stand in the corner of your camp and, in her power stance and just let rip.
Cellist DLC. It's coming, you know it.
Dragon Age Inquisition looking quite pretty during the EA press conference. And then after the Dragon Age, we went on to the Mass Effect. And I said before the show, I was going to be pretty happy if they did anything Mass Effect, unless it was the HD thing. So,
You're not really that happy.
No,
though,
I'm
are
kind of
you?
happy. I mean, this, I wasn't, I guess in my heart of hearts, not expecting anything super tangible. Because
This looks like more of a trailer for Casey Hudson than for Mass Effect, I think.
Yeah.
And that those luxurious curls.
His
Yeah.
wonderful perm, which is just really on point. Look at that. Look at the light cascading across those curls.
It just captures his essence, really. So a lot of conceptual prototype, and that was a phrase we saw a couple other times during the press conference. But the part where he's sort of saying, "What if you could just go to different worlds, and like, what if you went beyond those worlds?" That's kind of
does that mean?
Well, it's kind of the appeal of Mass Effect, right? You've always been able to go to far off worlds and go beyond. So. So exactly, what does it mean? We're making some new worlds. It's not just going to be.
I think what it means is
home
they're
systems.
bringing back more of like that sort of Mako exploration where you drop down on this unfamiliar terrain and you're sort of like, where do I go? I'm just going to drive off somewhere and try and explore, because 2 and 3 sort of drop you into these corridors, and it was like this very linear sequence once you were actually on a planet.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the downside with 1 is that you always went to these places that were still more or less the same as all of the other places, and all of the buildings were the same building.
Sure.
And there really wasn't anything to explore for.
No, but it felt like
ultimately.
you were exploring. So
Right.
that's what they've got to fix. They've got to get that feeling back and give you a reason to do it again.
Yeah.
Give you places to go. And these are prototypes of different worlds. Do you see them maybe working in some kind of procedural generation to create these new worlds? I mean, that's certainly something we see a lot of games experimenting with more and more as we have the new consoles and, PCs and just systems being more and more powerful, being able to handle
I think
that
if they
kind
want
of
to do
stuff.
something crazy, like let's have you land on every planet, they would have to do that. But Bioware is, I think, the kind of studio that loves its handcrafted content, and they want to make everything, as snazzy as possible. So I don't really see that happening.
I think BioWare is really more about the smoke and mirrors than they are about actually giving you a huge thing. Like, they give you the impression of something that's huge, but don't actually deliver the hugeness. So I don't know that this is actually going to be that much. I mean, but they promised, right, in their buzzword-heavy introduction that it was going to be so much grander than we could possibly have imagined.
And one phrase they used during one of those documentary-style vignettes was, we're entering a new generation of BioWare games where all of our games are going to be these big open worlds. So I feel like whatever it is that they're doing with Dragon Age Inquisition, they're going to try to apply that more to the Mass Effect framework.
Yeah, and they talked about their games. They also talked about a new IP in development at one of their studios. It's sort of as big as the Mass Effect world, but they want to tell contemporary stories.
Modern setting.
Yeah, but more modern than Mass Effect still gives you a lot of leeway. I mean, is it 5 years in the future? Is it an Earth planet, or is it something analogous to Earth?
It's a Battlefield RPG.
We did see some
More
Battlefield
modern than Mass
cross-pollination
Effect.
later on.
Mass Effect's really in the future!
Right, so, but contemporary stories
right,
was the
okay,
phrase,
yeah,
right?
okay,
So,
okay, I
like,
get
if
it.
you're imagining, that to indicate something that's not thousands of years in the future, it could still be a few years in the future. It could still be fantastical in some ways, but it implies certainly a more modern sensibility.
But it really could be anything. I mean, we don't know anything
Yeah.
truly about this game,
And
almost to the point where why would you, okay, so new unannounced game from BioWare, the end.
And at this
It's
point,
kind of the-
what they know about it might change entirely,
Sure.
just because of the nature of game development. The Sims 4, as expected. Kevin, it just blew up your whole notion of what The Sims is, didn't it?
Oh, everything's changed now.
It's a whole new world of people dressed really silly and having strange thoughts about the world and their elderly neighbors.
It was the darkest moment of the press conference, actually, I think. It just took a real turn
Really
for the
was.
worse.
What was the narrative they laid out? This guy, Chuck, he was like
He's a hothead.
he's a hothead,
He's a
but
real hothead.
But he tries. He's also a bit of a romantic. Does he he tries to initiate this May-December romance with Gladys? That's what I got from it. Is that what actually happened?
I think so. Well, it didn't happen in the end, but that's what he
No,
wanted.
she wasn't having it.
No,
She wasn't
she
into
let
it.
him know.
No.
And then, oops, he died. He was throwing a party to cheer himself up, and he died.
He died.
That's horrifying.
Which is a
really
lesson from EA that you should never try to cheer yourself up, or
Yeah.
you will die.
I don't remember my Sims ever being that vulnerable before.
I mean, I've killed Sims before.
Sure.
Like mainly when I have them go to the bathroom and then I take the door away so they poop themselves to death.
Yeah, or you just like put a lot of heavy curtains around the stove,
Yeah.
and then the whole place goes up in
Or you
flames.
take the
Exactly.
ladder out of the pool and you drown.
Yeah. So dying is
terrible
nothing
people.
new.
We have a lot of different ways to do this.
Yeah.
But they're talking a lot about like, you know, emotions and communities and
They
that's
do,
sort of-
but like the emotions you're seeing are cartoony and exaggerated, and it's
Yeah.
they still have
Sure.
to do that to sort of convey exactly what that is.
yeah.
It's really weird though, because I'm still wondering what is the substantial change over The Sims 3, and through all of this, there's nothing that really stood out to me as, oh, this is a substantial change. You've never seen this in The Sims before. So I'm sort of curious. Like the one thing that they really got to at the end was now you'll be able to import other people's Sims, not just the physical aspect of their Sim, but the entire emotional aspect of their
Yeah.
Sim as well. So I'm sort of curious. Like, is it, like that's my big takeaway from this is the thing that's really new. But nothing else about this presentation really says to me, wow, The Sims has really come a long way.
They sort of
since-
hinted at that kind of like Sim City-like connectedness between players, but didn't really explore, like
Right.
you said, more of that.
Right.
But do people even want The Sims to be new?
Well, I mean, I think people want, there comes a point, though, where it's like, you want something that's familiar, but even the expansions have gone to the point where you're actually doing really interesting new things in that universe.
Yeah.
So I'd really love to see the sequel. Like, what is the sequel bringing me that is something that I haven't yet
Well, the
been
Grim Reaper
able
has a
to-
tablet now, so that's new.
Yeah, that's true. That is new. And I noticed that this young lady has she likes to sing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
And
impressed.
President Obama is also in there for some reason.
Thanks, Obama.
All right. The Sims trailer concluded on the darkest note of the EA press conference as Chuck died. R.I.P. Chuck. And then we went right into dudes hell of punching other dudes. UFC.
Yeah.
Playable
One-
Bruce Lee.
Yeah, one man punching a dead man, and then eventually he got knocked out cold.
Yep.
That was so what do you make, Chris Waters?
I'm asking the questions here.
No, I'm going to turn the tables on you. How do you feel about Bruce Lee being a victim of virtual violence in a modern video game?
I think we've seen, like with boxing games in the past, I believe we've had sort of like play as the legends, and I don't think these sort of the fantastical nature of video games lets us experiment with these essentially what Bruce Lee is as real here as he is no, that's not gonna.
As he was
that
when-
phrase. As he was in you watching a movie, he's as real to you then, is what I was
Okay.
going to say. You're interacting with him in the same way, but that's not actually, doesn't really make any sense. Because
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
acting in the movie. He didn't like mocap for UFC. But no, I do like this kind of, them sort of delving into the history of this kind of fight and of the stars of martial arts. And, is it going to make a big UFC fan out of me? I don't know.
Look, I'm just glad we finally got a hug, It
Yeah.
was touch and go from Modern
That's true.
Advanced Warfare, actually. But yeah, I'm just kind of worried that they're going to have a, Activision and Kurt Cobain situation where they had a whole lot of legal trouble with him playing other people's songs.
Yep,
people
people
using
in
his
control of
likeness
his
and-
likeness coming there, but it doesn't look like, Bruce Lee's estate is going to come after them because Bruce really wasn't a ground and pound kind of guy.
Sure, yeah.
Oh, I just want to see the knockout blow because it was pretty amazing when the
All right.
guy just slumps down dead onto the ground.
The ending of this demo felt a little bit like the ending of the Battlefield Hardline demo, which is like, of course you have to have Bruce Lee knock this dude out.
Yeah,
at the end.
he's
Of
not
course
gonna
you have to
knock out
have the
Bruce
cop
Lee.
arrest the robber
Yeah.
at the end of that demo. Yeah. All right, come on, Bruce. Stick it to him.
And
Oh. Yeah.
yeah.
He just fell over like an action figure melting
Now, is that
in
an
the
animation
sun.
or is that like Euphoria physics just taking care of that?
I think
I don't think that's fully animated. There's something. There's
Listen, we
something
need-
procedural there going on.
Yeah.
we need to mocap you getting knocked out cold on your feet. Get ready. All right, we moved then through the sports stable a little bit more. We went to NHL 15, which looks like the gorgeous, incredible hockey simulator that it has been for many years running.
Yeah.
Anybody feeling passionate about discussing the hockey
I
bits?
have no thoughts whatsoever.
Well, Dan is an Australian who's really into hockey.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
You hit the puck.
Yes.
I know
That's
it's
true.
called a puck,
Yeah.
not a ball.
That is accurate.
The one thing that stood out to me during this is they focused on the crowd every so often here and in a few times elsewhere, and I just kept thinking, why are you focusing on the crowd, which is still so clearly the weakest part of the presentation?
It's the one thing they're able to slightly upgrade every year, so it's sort of like,
Yeah,
here's a
so
slightly better crowd.
I guess so, but it's funny because I would actually have been focusing on the players and how incredible these, the hits feel and so on and so forth. But they keep showing the crowds, and its fakeness just really stands out every time.
Yeah, I wanted to see an actual match from a player perspective, not these kind of like cinematic quick cuts, actually. But
Oh, they don't do that.
I know.
Kevin, the crowd is you. They're talking about you.
The crowd.
They want to tell you that they're animating you true to life now, and you know all the chants and all the songs like a true hockey fan. Are there even hockey songs?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
There probably are.
Take me out to the ice rink.
Yep.
Kind of a reskin of an
Mama
existing
Said Knock
song.
You Out.
Yeah, Mama Said Knock You Out. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And all the greats.
And all the greats. Yeah.
Another one bites the ice.
Yeah,
Big famous
exactly.
one there, yeah.
All
Chris,
right.
you're foolish
Bites
for
the
even
ice.
asking.
Oh, the teeth,
Yeah,
ice. Oof. All right, one of the games we were really looking forward to, or the announcements we were looking forward to for the EA press conference, of course, was the new Criterion game, and we saw that one. And there was some loose speculation that it might not be a racing game. But come on, it's a racing game. And then, is it a helicopter racing game? Yes, but also jet skis and ATVs
And helicopters with ATVs attached to them.
and wingsuits
Yeah.
and parachutes and basically a whole mess of different extreme conveyances.
Yeah.
I think Andy Bauman said it best when he said, "Are they making GoPro the game?"
Yeah, right. There was some GoPro shots in there, but yeah, there you go. There's boats. Personally, I'm excited about the wingsuit because
Far Cry 3.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because wingsuiting in Far Cry 3 was absolutely wonderful. I don't know why. I don't know. There's airplanes in here. This is like Pilot Wings Extreme.
So this little studio tour thing kind of ties into a question that I had in the pre-show, which is they've whittled down Criterion as a studio so much. Like, what do you do with that studio name now? And they're jumping right on that, saying, "All right, we're really small and nimble. It's like a startup culture. We don't have pre-assigned desks. We all sit near each other. Sometimes we go to the pub. Sometimes." And they're trying to own that, which is an interesting strategy as far as I'm concerned.
Did this game get a name?
No. No.
I think it's
it
called
didn't.
Prototype Gameplay.
Prototype
If
Gameplay.
I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Saw a lot of
conceptual
that.
prototype.
They showed a lot of the game actually over the course of the press conference. Surprisingly, about Prototype Gameplay, the game.
Yeah, so is that does that sort of diversification of racing mechanics? I mean, I love the Burnout series and really enjoyed the kind of the crash modes in that, and it sort of seems like it lends itself to a more free-form game situation or some more like open world type
Yeah, it
experience.
looks like they weren't so much racing as sort of just being in a sandbox in all these different crazy vehicles. And I'm not really sure how that works with like get from A to B, but pick whatever vehicle you like, and how does that be fair to everyone,
To answer that question, play Diddy Kong Racing. All right, one of the biggest shouts actually that erupted in the GameSpot room behind us here during the EA press conference was during the PGA Tour demo, which wouldn't really think.
Yeah, that went to a real weird
that,
place.
Golfing, they did say it was golf without limits.
Right.
So,
Tired of golf with limits.
just
Golf without
unshackle
limits is
golf.
just hitting a man with a golf club.
But then, you're playing this course, and then all of a sudden the next drive is taking place in Paracel Storm, a map from Battlefield 4, during the Levolution event where this destroyer runs aground, cut loose from its moorings. I mean, this happens in Battlefield multiplayer games, and now it's a PGA Tour.
I wish I would just give anything to be a fly on the wall in the EA creative meeting where they said, "All right, guys, we lost the Tiger Woods license. What are we going to do?"
We gotta jazz this up somehow. What do we got?
And then an intern in the corner of the room goes, "I have an idea. Battleships."
Sprinkle some Battlefield on it.
Yeah.
We were joking before in the pre-show about the Battlefield's going to get put in everything, but I don't think any of us picked it was going to be in PGA Tour.
It's going to be PGA Tour.
And you know what? I'm totally on board with it too, because golf games have been done since time immemorial. You know, it's been around forever. Why not do something just fucking crazy and insane?
So yeah, I mean, don't go full Hot Shots golf with it, because that niche is already established. But
Yeah.
take the mechanics you have, take that like realistic sim thing, and make essentially a fantasy mini golf course, right? Only real golf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Delightful.
Yeah.
Delightful.
Oh, explosion.
There was no Battlefield in Madden. There was new blocking circles and tackling circles that sort of allow you, as a defensive player, to do a little bit more finagling to position yourself better.
They talked about different types of tackles. For example, aggressive tackles,
Yeah.
timid tackles,
Conservative tackle.
uncertain with oneself tackles.
Really, reconsidering
Yeah.
one's life choices tackles.
Affectionate tackles.
Phoning it in because you're 1 month from retirement tackles.
Over-eager, but perhaps not quite on point tackles. Yeah. Hungry tackles.
Hungry.
Hangry tackle.
Angry tackles. That was a hangry tackle right there. Hangry hits,
Yeah.
actually, is the hashtag that they were promoting.
Angry hits. Yeah.
Oh, Madden, looking like, you know, these games at EA's press conferences, they always look fresh, they always look new. They always make you feel kind of bad for the people who were enjoying the games that they made
Yeah.
last year a little
Yeah.
bit. Like,
We got to hear about the other side of the ball as well.
yeah, the other side of the ball.
The other side of the ball.
The part where we tackle it. All right, so we went from Madden 15 into a game that we mentioned earlier on, Dawngate. They showed off their MOBA. MOBAs are hard to show off. They did like these developer interviews. They did, you know, sort of showing people at events.
The things the developers were saying were absolute nonsense.
It's
It
tough,
was
right?
stuff that applies to every MOBA, and they weren't saying anything really that was significant about this beyond what they were saying about the story and the maps being
Yeah.
a part of a narrative.
Yeah, I think when they touched on the maps being tied to the narrative, that was the only thing that had any real substance to it, because everything leading up to that was, we're really listening to our community. We don't want to make a MOBA like the other MOBAs. We know that we've got to do something different. But there were no specifics for like the first 3 minutes
Yeah.
of the video.
And it was pretty lengthy, but we're going to move on from it anyways, because let's talk about Mirror's Edge. Let's get right in there. This is, you know, again, conceptual prototype, or whatever the tag was they were putting on here, because it was basically another sort of dev interview kind of situation. The game is still very much in early stages of development.
It's interesting because the trailer they showed last year looked much further along than what we saw here. So I'm wondering how much of that was kind of phony, and this is sort of what they actually have in, you know, live gameplay.
This was just so ultimately like, yay, more Mirror's Edge. Boo! We don't know crap about this game any more than when we started. And that's the thing that's really disappointing to me. It's like, it's still a bunch of documentary shots and then a bunch of stuff that basically you could have just applied to the original Mirror's Edge.
I disagree. I think that what we saw was really sort of subtly tweaked from how Mirror's Edge 1 worked. It's far more aggressive and far more fast-paced. These kinds of takedowns happen a lot quicker. And we never saw her actually pick up a gun, which is really refreshing.
Well, that is nice. I guess I just don't know that I got much out of this beyond, hey, Mirror's Edge.
I didn't need to see
just
real
wish there
people
was
doing
more.
parkour. I just, you know.
Yeah.
But look at that dude, he just did a flip. Come on. Who doesn't like flips?
I like that little
That was a good
transition, though,
transition, yeah.
Nicely done.
But even then, here we see what's obviously, you know, placeholder elements and just, you know, you've just got the colors in place. And
It looks very, very similar to Mirror's Edge, which, you know, this Mirror's Edge, which is also Mirror's Edge, is trying. I guess that's a good thing and a bad thing. I don't know.
It looks. You're right in the sense that it looks more fluid. Like when she's moving, it does appear that they sort of transition into each other a lot better. But it's just so hard to know what is this game beyond more Mirror's
I really hope they
Edge.
keep the up button and down button control scheme, because that just worked really well, I think.
All right, well, that is our look at Mirror's Edge here, and Then we saw some FIFA, and for more GameSpot coverage of FIFA, you can follow at Danny O'Dwyer on Twitter. We're going to go right into, I think, now Battlefield Hardline. That was by far the most substantial showing during EA's press conference. Obviously, a huge focus for them as it's coming out later this year, and they ended on that big note. The beta, but let's talk about the gameplay demo and how they set it up and what you guys saw there.
DICE is amazing at choreographing live multiplayer gameplay demos, and it's funny because no actual public match plays out like that. No one is that coordinated. It's never going to be that cinematic and that cool and that fluid, but it still gives you a good sense of what the mechanics are and what they're introducing, I think.
Yeah, I think that the thing is, it all strung together is unbelievably choreographed. But the great thing about the Battlefield franchise has been, and looks to be here again, is that you can get snippets of that. You can get 10 awesome seconds in a row, it comes together, and it's incredible. And the fact that it all happened that way is unlike any other game you've played.
Exactly.
Not this part, the taking cover, but here you are. They're breaking in, they're doing some, what looks to be like real ineffectual SMG shooting. But this is sort of everyone converging in this mode, which is you grab, I believe, is this the neutral loot? No, this looks like anyways, the game mode, there's more game mode discussion in depth on GameSpot. We actually have some hands-on previews that you folks can read there once we wrap up here, which will be in just about 5 minutes. But let's talk about Battlefield Hardline and the impact it made here. Do you think that they have suffered at all from the leaks, or do you think this is a good excitement generator?
I think this is definitely a good excitement generator because, we didn't see anything like this. I think their, quick cut, cinematic, single-player, scripted moment trailers aren't really what we want to see. It's this kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And the stuff that leaked, that was like, campaign story, sizzle reel kind of stuff. And this is, it's obviously very heavily choreographed, but it is multiplayer in-engine gameplay. And I actually got to play a couple hours of this a few weeks ago, and you can read my hands-on impressions on the site right now.
Yeah.
But it has a lot of this sandboxy kind of like payoff moment kind of stuff, where you'll spend 5 minutes in a row getting shot and killed a whole bunch of times, but when everything comes together and clicks, you have really cool stories to tell. It's just they cram all those stories together really closely here.
It's nice that this isn't, early alpha gameplay footage as well. This is actually what it's going to look like.
Yeah, and you saw the little square button prompt here, so obviously this is PlayStation 4 footage that they're using.
So much Levolution as well.
Yes, absolutely. We saw that crane falling down. We saw a support pillar falling down.
That road collapsed just there, and then...
One thing I will say about the Levolution, though, particularly with that yellow crane that we're going to see toward the end of this demo, is that unlike a lot of the stuff in Battlefield 4, which is just window dressing, like stuff happening in the distance, like that crane actually creates a bridge between two objective points in certain game modes.
That's cool.
So yeah, it totally changes the
Hopefully that won't
flow.
crash the server as well.
So does that
One would
become an early
imagine.
priority for a specific team, or is it advantageous to both? Did you get a sense of that during your time with it?
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly neutral, so I don't think there's really any incentive. The only incentive I can think of is that there's a ladder in that crane that you can spend about 8 minutes climbing up, so it's good for snipers to get up there.
Oh, yeah.
And if you want to eliminate recon threats, or I think they're called professionals now, not recon.
Okay.
But yeah, it uses the same 4 class archetypes. But if you want to get rid of that perch, you can just knock it down.
And then the professional will have to find somewhere else to grapple hook up to find that perch. Of course, we're going to see, actually right now, some professional work as they do that switching sides, which I thought was a really clever way to present the action.
Yeah.
But this, 1 in a million, timing and,
Right.
and headshot, but at the same time, those shots happen, and that's what makes this series so beloved.
Bit of a riot shield there, I think.
Yeah, so Riot Shield is one of the little gadgets you can use, but I cannot overstate enough how much fun the zipline is to use, particularly when you're ziplining between skyscrapers.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun.
How many do you get? Can you just deploy 3 at once and then be like, oh?
Oh God, I can't remember if there's actually I think you do get a finite number per spawn.
Yeah.
So you can't go totally buck wild with them. But I
All
forget
right.
what it is.
Well, this concluded obviously with the announcement that the PC and PS4 beta for Hardline is live right now, making me, for maybe the first time, jealous that I am, or wishing I was not at E3 so I could play that thing. It would be really fun. But let's talk about the whole press conference. Let's just sort of run it down. How did EA do on the whole? What kind of highlights, lowlights. What was your overall impression?
You know, it felt pretty timid to me. I would have liked to see more just full gameplay like we saw with Battlefield Hardline. Obviously, they were banking on that as being a surprise and didn't really adjust their conference to account for its leak. But, you know, it was nice to see more of Mirror's Edge, more of Battlefront, but it just wasn't enough of them.
Yeah, it seems like they kind of announced a few games too soon a year ago, and they had no choice but to do something for them this year, even if they didn't have like gameplay in a state they were ready to show it yet. So they did these studio tour documentary kind of things with little snippets of gameplay, which for us, people who just spent like 90 minutes watching all gameplay in the Microsoft press conference, was a little bit disappointing. But there's definitely some cool stuff in there.
What do you think, Kevin?
Well, I said this on Twitter, but I think it bears repeating that I think that EA spent a whole lot of time using words to say really almost nothing at all, and that was really my takeaway, is that they basically just spent a time on blah 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 without actually communicating.
Yeah, I think that it was. Sorry, I'm just getting the news that people are actually having trouble downloading the Hardline beta on PSN. Surprise, surprise. But, you know, stick with it and keep us posted, because we want to know what's up, and we'll be keeping you guys posted as well. It was a lot of talk, and there was a lot of stuff that was conceptual. It almost felt like, why did you do a press conference this year? Was it just to sell Hardline?
There was a lot of sports as well.
You know, which, you know, or was it, yeah, so.
But they're all interchangeable, right? I mean, every year, you know.
I feel like, you know, this was as much maybe for, like, company morale or shareholders that it was, you know, for a consumer, because sure, like, you know, I knew there was some Mass Effect stuff coming. You dangled a little bit of Mass Effect at me, but it's not substantive, and especially held up against the great Microsoft press conference. You know, it doesn't compare super favorably, but man, that Hardline demo.
Yeah, no, that game's super fun.
Yeah,
I played a couple hours of multiplayer. I really liked it, and I wish that I had a PC I could play the beta on right now in LA, but I don't.
Maybe we'll try to get one of these video editing PCs.
Maybe,
You guys don't need to watch breakouts of all that stuff, do you? No. We are very well socked in with breaking up these press conferences, so in case you guys missed any of the trailers, any of the presentations, you can find them up on GameSpot throughout the day. We'll be posting them, as well as our impressions on the trailers themselves, so keep an eye out for that. In 1 hour at 2:30 Pacific time, our pre-show for the Ubisoft press conference kicks off, where we'll be running through all the games we expect to see there, what we're hoping, any long shots we want to see, and what Ubisoft needs to do to have a great showing and maybe even outclass EA. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for sitting in here. Kevin Van Orr, Dan Hines, Sean McInnes. I'm Chris Waters. We'll be here all E3 for you folks. Just come back and join us in an hour for Ubisoft. See you then.